Good afternoon, everyone. Are you getting the information and the support you need today? I hope you all are. That's great. I'm glad you're all here. My name is Judy Knackel, and I take great pleasure in introducing our next speaker. I've known her less than 24 hours, and I already feel like she's my new FFF, my fun friend forever. So we've had a good time already. So Trisha, oh, see, I got it already, see? Our starting thing. Trisha Porretti, she was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 1992. This diagnosis inspired her to become a nurse and a certified diabetes educator. So her area of expertise is pediatric endocrinology and insulin pump therapy. For 15 summers, she's been a nurse at Camp Coral Kids in Florida, a camp for children with diabetes. And since 2004, she's been a motivational speaker at diabetes conferences and events throughout the United States. She's the author of the book that many of you may have already seen or purchased today called The Sweet Blessing, My Adventures in Diabetes. And after her talk, she will be out in the area where all the vendors are. You can purchase a book. She'll be happy to personally sign it for you. So it would be a great keepsake and also to support JDRF. She's encouraged and inspired patients to focus on the positive diabetes outcomes that are achievable with education, acceptance, faith, and humor. So Trisha shares her optimistic message that laughter can lower our blood sugar. Trisha?
Wow, it's super bright. Who's the person who told me I couldn't move? Hi? Am I in an okay place? Hi? So, I am so honored and privileged to be here. Thank you all. I can't believe you guys get up on a Saturday morning at dawn to do something like this. But I know how much you love your kids. Are there kids in here, or is it just parents? Hey, I can see nothing. So there's a few kids. I spent the last hour with the teenagers, and I told them that I was going to get up here and talk to their parents. I seriously need sunglasses. And I said, you know, what would you like me to tell your parents before I even get started with my thing? And they said something that I've been saying forever. And I was so happy that we're on the same page, me and your kids. Because I have the privilege of speaking to doctors and nurses and certified diabetes educators. But when I'm here with people that live with T1D or whatever, it doesn't matter what kind. At this point, T1, T2, T3. My husband, where's my T3? Somebody who loves me. Thank you. But this, I feel I'm in a land where everybody speaks the same language. So this is one of my favorite kind of places to speak. The kids are very vocal about, many things, but maybe not to you. So something I've said over and over is, especially to parents, is, our lives are a little bit challenging. So when the kids come home from school and you get to see them, instead of just saying, what was your blood sugar today? What did you have for lunch? Did you give insulin? Did you calibrate your CGM? Instead of those thousands of questions about our diabetes, if you gave us like 30 seconds of like, hey, how was your day? That had nothing to do with diabetes, because we start to think like everything from our hair to our sneakers is about diabetes to you. The kids share. I didn't mean to say all this. We'll laugh, I promise. But the kids really feel that you should know that there's so much more than diabetes, which is really exciting to me, because I have lived with diabetes for 25 years, and no matter how many people I say, that I feel it's a blessing. I called my book The Sweet Blessing, and people argued with me that it was a curse, that it wasn't a blessing. And I stand on what I say. Now, did I always feel that way? Of course not. And if there's any newly diagnosed people here, you might as well leave now. You're not even going to believe anything I say. And when I speak to parents, the very first question I get is, how old were you when you were diagnosed. So let's get that out of the way, okay? I've had diabetes for 25 years. I have 3 grown children, 6 grandchildren, and I was diagnosed when I was 1. I'm just making sure you're paying attention. And if you didn't laugh, you need a math tutor. So I am sorry if getting it in my 30s takes away my credibility. Mary Tyler Moore got it in her 30s, and she didn't even tell anybody. She stayed in the closet. I've been out of the closet for 25 years trying to be the voice of type 1. So yeah, I'm out of the closet. So many people have said to me, especially because I train people on insulin pumps and infusion sets, and you know that moment when they're scared to death of the needle and they say, well, you're a nurse, so you're not afraid. Okay, well, diabetes came into my world and the world of needles, and I was a bartender. So when I got out of high school, I had a pretty good job as a legal secretary. Ed Rendell was the chief of homicide. I don't know, anybody here from Pennsylvania? Probably not. But Ed Rendell went on to be the governor of Pennsylvania. So I was a very happy, woman, had a good career. And my ex-husband, Larry, he owned a bar and a restaurant. And one Friday night, his bartender called in sick. So he threw me behind this crowded bar and said, go ahead, you'll be a natural. I made so much money. I came home with a brown paper bag filled with money, and I dumped it on the floor. And I said, Mommy is all finished typing. So I became a bartender for a decade. That career lasted longer than that marriage. However, thank you. It wasn't all that funny, but thanks. It wasn't a funny thing. But I forgot what I was going to say. As soon as Larry comes up, I'm sorry, I lose my mind. So I'm watching a whole sea of really inebriated people one Saturday night, and I thought there is no spirituality to bartending. So I went to my mom, a little Italian Catholic girl, and I said, Mom, I am so upset. I feel like I need a new career, a new direction. And she said, Patricia, say a novena. Now, is there any Catholics here? Okay, for you people who are not Catholic, a novena is a magic prayer. And if you say this magic prayer every day for 9 days, on the 9th day, your prayer, if it's God's will, should be answered. So I prayed every day for 9 days for a new direction in my life. And on that 9th day, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And so now I don't pray. No, that's a joke. I pray. I just don't pray for anything specific, because if I pray for rain, I'm going to get mud. So I pretty much just say thank you. I don't ask for anything. And so, okay, again, I was in my 30s. I wasn't a child. And I get that the different ages and stages upon which we get diabetes changes our acceptance. But I'm here to tell you, at no matter what age, it's a shock. I'm with my people. You know this. So Dr. Kubler-Ross talks about death and dying and stages of grief. And I think when we're diagnosed as a person, as a family, we're in denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and it takes a while to get to acceptance. So, no, I didn't in the first week when I hated everything in the world that began with the letter D. It started with the word die, and then it goes on to beat us. I hated it, right? And so I was admitted and didn't know anything about diabetes. So they pulled out the sword, and they checked my blood sugar, and the machine said, hi. And I said, hi. It's a sociable little machine. They didn't laugh. They thought I was pretty dumb. So I found out high was a critical value. They put me in ICU. They put me on an insulin drip. You know how all this goes, right? So I hope there's no registered dietitians I'm going to insult. But an RD came in and told me that I would never eat another chocolate chip cookie, that and that everything I ate was like a diabetic mortal sin, And she just wanted to teach me all about exchanges. So back in the 1800s when I was diagnosed, we didn't have carb counting. We didn't know the gram value of anything. And so everything, and she started talking about exchanges. And I said, look, I'm a professional shopper. I can exchange anything. She didn't laugh. Nobody was laughing. So I couldn't get them to laugh. And that's like one of my coping mechanisms when I'm uptight. So then the nurse comes in to teach me how to give my first shot of insulin. And not a Novo pillow or an orange or even like the mattress. We were going to practice on my thigh. What? So I open up the alcohol swab. I do what he shows me. I make the circle. And I'm like, I think I can. And like I couldn't. I was a little diabetic who couldn't. So for like a half hour, this goes on. Now I've got 5,000 alcohol swabs, and I still haven't put this needle in my thigh. And so finally, the nurse, he was so young and so frustrated, and he said, is there anybody that you hate? And I said, I can think of somebody. And he said, could you picture that person on your thigh and just go for it? Because, like, I wasn't a nurse. I didn't realize is there any nurses in here? Oh, I was ruining his whole day, right? He's in there over an hour with just me. So, okay, there it is. I think I can. And that was how I gave my first injection. So make no mistake about it. There was no way, like, oh, needles were fine. I offered him $20. He wouldn't take it. I met the only nurse in the hospital who was, like, not willing to take a bribe. And then I met my certified diabetes educator. And she came in, and I was a mess, uncontrollably crying like the world was, in fact, ending, and the world that I knew was ending. And she said, you have a choice. She said, you can control diabetes, or it can control you. And right now, it has full control of you. And she was right, because I was crying like a maniac. And so I listened. I really listened to how I could control something that seemed like an elephant to me. And she said, yeah, it is like an elephant, and you eat an elephant by taking a bite at a time. So I learned how to give insulin, which was huge. I learned how to do exchanges, which was ridiculous. And I was this skinny. And I kept saying, like, why do I have to be on a diet? This didn't make any sense to me. And they said, well, if you don't do what we tell you, you're going to lose your feet, and you're going to go blind, and you're going to have a kidney failure issue. And I was like, oh, it'd be so cool, uncool to buy, like, one sneaker. So I did what they told me, and all these years later, 25 years later, I'm going to tell you what I learned Friday night from Dr. Gary. Where is he? Dr. Gary Rothenberg, who invited me here. Thank you, Dr. Gary. So me and Dr. Gary and a parent, I forget who, forgive me, and we were talking, and of course the mom goes right into what all the moms and dads say, complications. And I looked at Gary and I thought, back in the day when I took NPH, which is not particularly helpful, we, in 2017, are so proactive. And I wrote it on a dirty napkin. I hope you don't mind if I read from my dirty napkin. This is my quote that I'm taking home, Gary. I love it. Well-controlled diabetes is the leading cause of nothing. And that rocked my world, and I just wanted to share it before I forget. So I went on to become a nurse, but I went to my mom and I said, Mom, because really when I was diagnosed in the dark ages, we didn't have Google, we couldn't look anything up, we went to the library. So I lived in Philly, I was going to like the medical libraries, I was borrowing medical books from my friends in nursing school, and somebody said, why don't you go to nursing school? I mean, you're studying anatomy and physiology, and I didn't even know what it was. And so I was so excited. I said, that's a great idea. So I went to my mom and I said, Mom, I am going to nursing school. She said, Patricia, you can't even clean a chicken. She's Italian, my mother. She says, you skeeve everything. And it's true. But I said, there's not going to be any chickens in nursing school. And my little brother, who's in heaven, Teddy Porretti, Teddy said, you will be a good nurse. You'll make them laugh. So I did become a nurse, contrary to what everybody believed was possible, because I wasn't that kind of girl. I was about image management. Is there any nurses in here? I asked before, but I can't really see. 1? 2? Let's share with them. Okay, fraternities have hell weeks. Nursing school had hell years. And the smells, right? Oh my gosh. So my first clinical experience, I didn't really know what I was getting into. I was more concerned with would my stethoscope match my scrubs. I didn't care about, like, right? So the smells were bad. So the second clinical experience, I covered my shoulder in Givenchy. That's perfume, you guys. And then, I don't know what men know. And then every time things got bad in the clinical experience, I said, and by the end of the first day, they thought I had Tourette's syndrome. So, oh my God, the first time I had to start an IV, I cried, and it was a mannequin. Nursing school was scary. And as a person with type 1 diabetes, everything in nursing school I learned I was at risk for, except benign prostatic hypertrophy. That was my favorite lecture in nursing school. Yeah, it was the only thing I wasn't at risk for. So I went on, of course, to become a nurse, and then I got out of nursing school, and I was like, I'm going to be a CDE, and I started calling every hospital in Philadelphia, and they were like, I'm a one-man band, and you're not getting my job. So one nurse told me that diabetes was very med-surgy. So I went to med-surg, I went to telemetry, I went to critical care. I just kept moving up the ranks till I got less patients. In critical care, you only have 2 patients. I was like, I don't care how sick they are, I only got 2 of them. That's a nurse joke, totally. So while I'm in ICU, we had a code blue. That's like somebody's dying. So I'm the one doing the chest compressions, and my NPH kicked in, Dr. Gavin. That nasty, not particularly cloudy, we don't know what it's going to do Tuesday, that it didn't do Monday, and it's going to do something different Wednesday. So I'm like, I need orange juice. And we switched, and I went and got juice. So when the code was over, it was successful. The dude lived. Kevin said, why don't you have a pump? And I was like, ew. Ew. I said, that would be so uncool. He goes, what? He said, I have the coolest, sexiest wife, and she's a pumper. I'm like, really? Like, I couldn't put, like, cool and sexy and pump in the same sentence. It didn't make sense to me. And so he said, why don't you have lunch with my wife? So she and I talked on the phone. We were going to meet for lunch. And again, coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous, because I was outside of ICU, and this little 5-year-old had a beeper. And I said, you're little. Why do you have a beeper? And he was looking at me like, you're an adult, and it's none of your business. But he didn't say that. He said, it's an insulin pump. And in 1 minute, he showed me how he was matching his insulin to his lunch and how he was correcting his blood sugar, and I was in disbelief. This was in the year 2000. And so I ran in and I called my doctor and I said, I want an insulin pump. Like, what is it? He didn't know. He told me to call the pump company. Again, that was the dark ages. We've come a long way. So I became a pumper, can I tell you? And I was out of the closet. Now, Mary Tyler Moore, who was, diagnosed in the 30s, I recently heard that she didn't want anybody to know about her diabetes. She was really in the closet because it was a stigma. It was something that people didn't always look at positively. But I, on the other hand, was out of the closet. So I got on the elevator, and the chief of staff said, oh, Trisha, I heard you got an insulin pump. Who surgically implanted it? And I was like, I am the surgeon every 3 days. And then, no shame, I would drop my drawers, show my infusion set. I'm like, look, come here, let me show you. And I'd be doing an in-service in the elevator. And everywhere I went, it was like, well, now I kind of hide it because I'm back in the closet a little bit. But I used to sport it, and everywhere I went, I was like a super show-off, And I started to accept diabetes. Because no matter what I did, and no matter what I didn't do, and I was always active, and I ate what they wanted, and I did everything they told me, and the A1Cs were not under 7. I'm not even confessing what the numbers were before I was a pumper. And when I became, and I'm not here to sell a pump, I'm just part of my story, I'm just saying. When I became a pumper, my attitude towards diabetes became more positive because I really at that point felt like this was an airplane I had control of. And if you want me to fly in between these lines, whatever my targets are, the pump just made it so much easier. Because like if I'm at a 150, 170, I'm not going to go get a needle, but it's nothing to push a button. So I started to have a much more positive attitude about diabetes. And then I was asked, because again, I was out of the closet, I was asked to be a nurse at a camp for kids with diabetes. So I did that for 2 weeks. It was the most exciting 2 weeks of my life. And when camp was over, I was so depressed that I had to go back to the hospital. I didn't know what to do. I said to my husband, I need shopping therapy. I came home with a black Mitsubishi Eclipse. For real. It was an expensive, depressing afternoon. So then I applied for the application to be a CDE, and it said you needed 2,000 teaching hours. Well, I thought, okay, I just did 40 weeks at camp, so I have 1,960 hours somewhere. And where are you going to do that if you're not a certified diabetes educator? So I was lucky again, and the doctor who ran the camp, actually after camp was over, and I picked up my car the very day I went to her house for the interview. She must have thought I was a moron. I didn't even know how to close the moonroof. But she interviewed me like I was going to work for the Pentagon for like 3 hours, and then she gave me the opportunity to be her diabetes nurse educator. So after a year working with her, I had accrued my 2,000 hours, and I became I became a CDE at this camp, which I was now running. I was now running the camp. So it was a labor of love. Every time I'm with the kids, I feel like I'm with people that speak my language. I became a CDE, and we have to keep 75 continuing education units to maintain our licensure. So I would go to these conferences, and there was always a lecture about diabetes and depression, and it was depressing. And they said, seriously, that people with diabetes, whatever type 1, type 2, that 3 out of 4 of us are depressed, and I wasn't. And what the depression workshops were saying is that negative thoughts led to depression. And I said, well then, will positive thoughts lead to happiness? Well, why not? So I started to investigate the physiology and the anatomy of laughter. I know it doesn't sound funny, and that is the longest introduction you have ever had to a PowerPoint. Oh wait, there I am. Where is it? Where's the PowerPoint? Oh, look at my tattoo. This is a symbol for beyond type 1. It's a blood drop. And there's a group that the teenagers are involved in beyond type 1. Hey, this tattoo wasn't supposed to ever show. It has to be up higher. But I really, honest to God, in my heart of hearts, believe that diabetes has blessed my life in ways that none of you may believe. When I was writing the book, a lot of my friends said, and I don't know where in here, I can't find it, but they said, no parents are going to believe what you have to sell. Not the book, but like the thoughts, that this is a blessing and not a curse. But the day that I got my vision back after I was blind from my first week of diabetes, I got on my knees and I told God that I was going to be of service in this space. So whatever that means, and if you don't believe in God, I'm sorry. If you're an atheist, that's all right. But I do believe that I was sort of called in this direction. Would I have picked diabetes? Never. I would have never in a million years gone to nursing school. I would never be standing here today. So diabetes has blessed my life in ways I can't even tell you. I was signing my books a couple weeks ago in Minnesota, and a grandmother came up to me and she said, if I get that book for my grandson, will he stop cheating? I said, cheating is what Bill Clinton did with Monica Lewinsky. I eat. And I said, I'm going to give it to you for free. So the book is not a how to bolus for pizza. It's not how to square wave or combo bolus for ice cream. It's about how I went from hating diabetes to accepting it and believing that, you know what? If you hate it, it's like hating your arm. I mean, this is my arm. It's mine. I can't hate it, and I certainly can't get rid of it. So my T1D is mine. I can't get rid of it. It's mine. So all I want to basically say is, and I just finished this book by Marianne Williamson. Do you know who she is? She's like so spiritual and all that. She just wrote a book, From Tears to Triumph. And that was all I was trying. She did it so much more eloquently, really, than I. I was writing like a third grade level. But she really says what I was trying to express is that from these tears, and honestly from this tragedy, came some diabetic comedy. So let's let laughter lower our blood sugar. Wasn't that a long intro? What time is it? We're going to zoom by this like so fast. You don't even know. Okay, so objectives. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Now, I just want to tell you that your kids today didn't really express a lot of this. But in my experience with T1D kids, they're worried, they have fear, they're angry, they have anxiety. Some of them are depressed. There's guilt over our numbers, over what we eat, over what they think we are supposed to do. Some of them are ashamed. I heard all this an hour ago. I heard all of this an hour ago. And guess what? You got identical problems. Now, all these things are called distress factors. So, worry, I believe, is negative prayer. Fear is false evidence appearing real. Anger, like, why me? Why my kid? Why my family? Seriously, why not? Anxiety. I have 6 grandchildren. They're all anxious. So T1D is just like the cherry on top. Everybody's in a state of anxiety. Depression. A lot of like post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms were identical to like ours at diagnosis. All mothers have guilt, so whatever with that. Not just us Italian mothers, all mothers. And the frustration, like, okay, so I can only imagine your lives. I would rather have my life. And when I talked to the teenagers today, we kind of agreed that we have it better. Because I told them, you would take it in a minute if you could, but you can't. And that frustrates you. And it's very heartwarming because I don't think you could handle it personally, but a lot of the kids think you all need to put in an infusion set today for Mother's Day. I said for Mother's Day, change your Lancet for your mom, will you? When I get with people in the biz and we all have type 1, we're like, when'd you change your Lancet? It's like Christmas, Halloween, my birthday. Don't repeat that. What happens at type 1 summit stays at type 1 summit. So, what will help fight worry, stress, shame, blah, 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 all those negative things? Good coping skills, a good attitude, a good sense of humor, the ability to laugh, being hopeful, being grateful for what you have, and thinking positively. So having strong resilience factors can serve as a protective factor against the stress factors. So laughter is good medicine, honestly. So what is laughter? It's not the same as humor. They're different. So this very unfunny definition of laughter says, according to Webster's Unabridged Dictionary, it's a movement, usually involuntary, of the face, particularly the lips. It's like so unfunny, right? But laughter is the physiological response to humor. So they are 2 separate entities. So the dictionary online says humor is the quality of being funny. Like if you have a 3 to 6 month old infant, you smile at them and they smile back. You don't have to tell them a joke. Let's everybody smile. You're faking out your brain. We know how to fake things. Come on. Oops. So, humor is cognitive, emotional, psychosocial. It's behavioral. It's a psychological trait. It's a whole different thing than just being funny. There's actually a study of laughter. It's called gelotology, which is a set of gestures and a production of sound. And the brain makes you do this simultaneously. So, From the Reader's Digest to the Bible, they tell us laughter is good medicine because it increases our endorphins, which is the happy juice in our brains and our body, improves the quality of life, improves immune functioning, lowers our stress, decreases pain, and you know, there was even research that lowers our blood sugar. Yes. Okay, so within 0.4 of a second to these people that were hooked up to an EEG, the whole brain responds to humor in 0.4 of a second. And if there was, you know, if there was a negative charge in the brain, there was laughter. Positive, no response. So, all right, I'm sorry, Dr. Gavin, and I'm sorry, Dr. Gary, but what's the difference between God and a doctor? You're laughing already. God knows he's not a doctor. Hey, you know what? This could be a neuro check. This could be a neuro check. Instead of saying, what's the date, who's the president, because we all want to forget that, you could now do a neuro check by asking a joke, because your brain has to be working to get it. This is like for the doctors and the nurses I give presentation to. They want meat and potatoes. You don't need to know this. But look at how smart God made us. Look at this. So the left side analyzes the words, and the frontal lobe becomes very active. The right hemisphere gets the joke. The occipital lobe of it. The limbic system is also involved, and this is always with pain, pleasure, anger, rage, fear, the limbic system. I don't want to teach you all that today. You need to know that. Okay. You don't need to know this either. Believe me, all our muscles get involved. You don't need to read all this. Our lungs get involved. Now, I do want to talk about the psychological benefits, though, because this is a for real coping mechanism. So yesterday, I'm in the airport, and I got my pump on, and I am getting the pat down of the universe of the century, and people in the airport are watching me, and, you know, I was embarrassed. So I finally, like, to ease my own embarrassment, I said, I think I will cancel my mammogram. She didn't laugh, so thank you. And Frank and I flew a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, watch what she's doing, Frank, so we can go home and play airport. They didn't laugh at that either. I thought that was a good line. They're not allowed. TSA, no laughter. So I just like this because there's an American Association of Therapeutic, I can't even say it, my mouth broke, therapeutic humor. I just think that's cool. So this person, Angela, who's a laughter leader, inspired me to become one. So actually in 2009, I became a laughter leader, and you're not allowed to tell jokes. You have to fake laugh. We may do this if you'll bear with me. Because laughing is the fireworks of the soul. Now, Norman Cousins, back in 1979, had ankylosing spondylitis, which was painful, and lucky for him, his friend was Alan Funt, who nobody in this room probably knows. Yes, Candid Camera. So they brought into the hospital a 35 millimeter, old school. We didn't have VHS, DVD, nothing back in the Wild West. And so he watched hours and hours of Candid Camera, The Three Stooges, comedy, silly comedy. And he honestly, with lab results, and his stuff is in the New England Journal of Medicine, he proved that laughter really took his pain away. He made the joyous discovery that 10 minutes of belly laughter, and he had 2 hours without pain. Like, really? That's free. And we don't have to get addicted to anything. It was weird. Like, I went from bartending to nursing. It was like I went from, like, you know, martinis to morphine. But they really did prove with his lab values that his SED rate, anyway, you don't need all the medical jargon, trust me. So he said he was greatly elated that there really was a physiological basis to the theory that laughter was good medicine. Oh, look, it's over here. I'm going to come over here now. I didn't know. See, it just goes to show, sometimes you just have to turn around. So Michael Miller, a cardiologist, studied the endothelium, which is the inner lining of our vessels, and what he found was that when we laughed, we vasoconstricted, and the lumen of our vessel went wide, and when we saw things that were stressful, it restricted. And the way he did this is important for us with T1D, you know, because how we don't heal so wonderfully sometimes. So the endothelium helps if it's functioning. And what he found out was, and what they did, they saw Saving Private Ryan. And when the audience saw Saving Private, and that's right, and so their arteries decreased by 35%. And then when they were shown a comedy, it increased by 22. I mean, that's a 57% difference from being vasoconstricted. So I won't go to the movies and pay unless it's a comedy, because they're not going to vasoconstrict me for $20 admission. So Dr. Miller said the magnitude of change they saw in the endothelium was similar to the benefit we would see from aerobic exercise. Put away those sneakers. And he said, like, somebody like me would get that idea. So he said they don't recommend that you laugh and not, exercise, but that 30 minutes of exercise and 15 minutes of laughter was good for the vascular system. You want to try? Come on, stand up. Please, please. What I'd love you to do is you don't have to go far, and I know nobody wants to touch each other, so when you high five and you miss and you feel like a goober, we're going to miss on purpose. So I want you to, at least to 3 people, go, hello, and you got to miss. You got to really miss. 3 people, go. Hello, 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 hello. All right, now, this is challenging, but I want you to get your feet like a penguin, like a penguin. Oh, they want to say it to everybody. No showing off. Okay, penguin, and you're going to waddle at least to 2 or 3 people and say, hello, 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 hello. You guys look so funny. And okay, that was 1 minute. Did anybody get just a little bit warmer? That wasn't even a minute. That was about 30 seconds. That was a half a minute. Oh, you can sit. You guys are so cooperative. Sometimes people look at me and they're like, not standing up. But I went to this laughter leader workshop, and they made us do things like this for hours. And the point is even when you fake it, you start to laugh for real. So whether it's laughter or just the view of diabetes, change your viewpoint. You can change your life by changing your viewpoint. Okay, here's the meat and potatoes. Kaiko Hayashi. I don't know her. Is she here? If I said her name wrong? She did, and this is really the only thing I can find on laughter and diabetes, but it's in every literature search. They keep referring to this. So what happened after they saw a comedy show versus a lecture on foot ulcers and how we were going to lose our feet? The 2-hour postprandial blood glucose rose 123, and the comedy folks, it only went up 78. You're like, big deal. I don't do research, but they found that to be statistically significant. And that's, so that would be the difference between a correction bolus or not. And what they discovered was the present study elucidates the inhibitory effect of laughter on the increase in PBB. So it's 1 o'clock, and I don't care about this, and maybe you don't either, so we're going to skip it. But there's different reasons why we laugh, right? Because we are different cultures, different ethnicity, different backgrounds. We don't all laugh about the same thing. Men are from Mars, right? They make fun of each other. Women, we put ourselves down. So women, we need to learn from the men. The men have this a little bit ahead of us. Again, it's 1 o'clock. I talked too long, so I'm going to skip over this. But there are theories of humor. Superiority is like when you see somebody trip and fall and you laugh. Makes you feel superior, like the kid in the schoolyard that fall. Oh, somebody's still laughing. You're still back in grade school. Superiority, you're laughing at instead of with. Incongruent, this is when you don't expect. So this is a true story. Charlie Chaplin entered a Charlie Chaplin look-alike contest, and he came in 3rd. You can't make that up. I have a service dog who's blind, and I spoke at children with diabetes, and I was up on the stage, and my service dog walked off the stage. Not another word that I said was heard. They're like, she can't take care of her dog. You think she can take care of her diabetes? This is when I'm in the airport and I'm like, I'm going to cancel my mammogram. It's a little bit off color, and sometimes people don't laugh. I hope this is what we're doing today, which is the divinity theory, which is together we just share a laugh, and it's, you know, it's better than crying together, right? So, why don't we do it more? Kids do. Can you believe this? Kids laugh 400 times a day. We're bigger. We should laugh 800 times. How do we get so ripped off here? So I think we have to make an effort to be more childlike, right? So, watch more things that make you laugh. Read it. I have a book that makes my husband laugh if he's in a bad mood. If he comes in and he looks like he's had a bad day, I show him this book. And this is a true story. It's called Why Do Men Have Nipples? And if you want the book, the full title is, Or Questions You Will Only Ask Your Doctor After Your Third Martini. Okay. I love to exaggerate. So if I've eaten a whole lot and Frank says, like, you know, just check your blood sugar, I'm like, yeah, it's 1,000. So I think I exaggerate, like, everything. It makes things funny. You don't have to be funny. You can just be lighthearted. It's all going to help your body. And stop taking everything so seriously. Because diabetes is so stinking serious that we make it horribly intense with our seriousness. And your kids today said that they don't feel nearly as devastated by it as you do. And I know, because I was invited to speak all over the United States and say positive things. Yet my mom would say, this is my daughter, Patricia. She has diabetes. And I'd be like, Mom, you got to stop introducing me that way. And P.S., a lot of you in the past 12 hours, because I met people last night, came up and said, hi, this is my diabetic daughter. Hi, this is my diabetic son. Hey, we have names, people. And that should come before diabetes. Just saying. Our attitude is... Please, please. Our attitude is everything. So seriously, even if you don't mean it, when you smile, your brain has no clue that you're not happy. It's like this, right? It's this cascade of endorphins. And you smile and you say this, and your brain's like, okay, I guess things are all right. And you can fake your own self out. And really, you know, this is true. Worry attracts more worry. Anxiety attracts more anxiety. Unhappiness attracts more unhappiness. And so if all the negative stuff is true, let's be the bottom half, okay? Joy does attract more joy. Don't you feel more joyful just being with your people today? Like we're our people. And peace attracts more peace. Happiness attracts more happiness. Kindness attracts more kindness. I don't want to sound like Oprah, but this is real. And when I went to the Laughter Leader workshop, I raised my hand. I said, you want me to leave here and just make people laugh, and everybody's supposed to be happy. Like, you know, and I'm thinking personally about my audiences with, you know, T1D. So this was the little recipe he gave us. On Mondays, compliment everybody. Why? Because if you're complimenting them, there is no time to judge them. You are so busy trying to find what's right, you can't find what's wrong. Tuesday, be flexible. Drive a different way. Eat a different thing. Don't ask what your blood sugar was today. Try that. Wednesday, be grateful. Because when we are grateful, again, we're not focusing on what we don't have. We're focusing on what we have. Again, sounding like Oprah, a day of kindness never hurts. And, you know, that's an antidote for meanness. We are living in a culture of strife, animosity, and meanness. It's time for us all to get back to peace and love in the 70s, not for nothing, and love one another. And on Friday, I need a month of Fridays because I have a list, starting with Larry. But, you know, we need to forgive. I was angry with God. I mean, when I got diabetes, I was mad at God. And at some point, you have to forgive, and you have to accept. And the people I know who haven't accepted, their A1Cs are never going to get below 7 because they hate it. So I kind of feel like the less you hate it, the better you can manage it. Saturday and Sunday is for chocolate, which is just kind of a, you know, symbol. And if, you're lactose intolerant and can't eat chocolate, pick something else. Wine is good. So I'm repeating this slide because I want to remind you that all those stressful things that we with T1Z families experience, you can fight back. Because these things give us resilience to fight back. And God gave us humor so we could laugh at ourselves and not take ourselves so seriously. And again, I am in my 60s. I guess those of you who have math skills figured that out. And, I don't feel any different now than I did when I was a teenager because I will never stop laughing except when I cry in between. Some of you parents made me cry today, so I have my, confusing moments too. But I just want to thank you for living a life that is supremely challenging. I feel like all you parents have been called specifically, and why I do not know, but I think your mission is great. You have kids that are the future of educating the people that still want to give us cinnamon to fix us. And I do want you to stay positive because that's the only way we can fight back. And I know I have to go because Will Cross, who climbed Mount Everest, has to come talk to you. I watched the movie and got a 300 blood sugar because I was so worried about Jake Gyllenhaal. And that was Hollywood. So to have actually climbed Mount Everest, I feel like I can't even stand in Will's shadow. So it was my honor to say your next speaker is coming up. Thank you for your time.